What's up, warriors? Welcome back to the channel. And even if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I still consider you an anxiety warrior right now. An anxiety warrior's first step on the path is trying to learn something new. And if you're here on this channel, what we're trying to learn is how do we radically change our relationship to our anxiety. This channel is really about three things. It's about walking the anxiety warrior path that has the 4 pillars on it. The 4 pillars are the sturdy foundation that hold us up, that we can always go back to. Number 2 is how do we radically change our relationship to our thoughts, our sensations, and our anxiety in general using that path and those 4 pillars. And 3 is how do we get to that place as fast as we can. Now, that doesn't mean 2 months, 2 days, 2 years, whatever. There's no 30-day guarantee. It's just let's get on the path and good things will start to happen if you are diligent on that path. So my name is Andrew Satius. A little bit about myself is I received my master's in psychology back in June of 2020, right during the start of the lockdown. So that was an interesting way to finish my master's. I've been studying Eastern philosophy and Buddhism under a very well-respected Lama. His name's Lama Jinpa. He's been studying Buddhism for the last 50 years under some great teachers. And I've learned a lot from being a part of that community, and a lot of what I've learned over there is sprinkled throughout all my talks. My self-education is just hundreds of books that I've read, hundreds of hours of meditation and self-reflection. And really the number one thing is that I've been through what I like to call the anxiety obstacle course, which is what I will talk about today. I've been through that ringer so many times, and it is tough. It's extremely difficult. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my entire life up to this point. So if you're out there and you're watching this, you're not alone. I've been there. Anybody watching this has been there. Millions and millions of people struggle with anxiety every single day, some people silently. And it's just something that I kind of take a little pride in, that I've been through that. And I can share that experience with other people, that human experience. And when I've done coaching, that is the number one thing that people like the best about the one-on-one coaching sessions that I have, is that they can relate to me because I can relate to them. The things they say that they've been through, the sensations they feel, the thoughts they're having, or at least the sensations or reactions that the thoughts are giving, I can relate to those because I've been through them. I know what it's like to be there. And I know that through those years of experience with my education, with my self-education, meditation, and just going through it and reading and learning, I've gotten to a point where it just doesn't have the control that it used to. I always like to say that the captain is barking orders, but the crew is not really listening. I'm choosing the orders I want to listen to for the most part. So that's a little bit about me. And this channel, like I said, is about changing our relationship to our anxiety. And what I'm going to talk about today is something I call the anxiety obstacle course. And it's kind of an analogy I use for life and the obstacles that are thrown at us and how we need to deal with them, or how we need to, again, change the way we are dealing with them. Not change the course, not cheat the course, but how do we change the way we deal with those obstacles? So let's get right into it. So first, how I have described it to my clients that I've worked with one-on-one, I like to picture it as one of those goofy obstacle course TV shows. You know, it's got like the spinny wheel with the giant foam pillars you got to either jump over or duck under. It's got the tightrope you got to walk across, and if you slip, you fall into the water, game over. Or it's got the hill with like slime coming down, you got to pull yourself up, and it's really difficult. Or maybe it's got a corridor and giant like boxing gloves are coming out and you got to dodge them, or a boulder is coming down the hallway and you got to get out of the way. And I just like to picture it this way and describe it this way because it makes it a little more light, a little more fun to deal with. So what are the obstacles? The obstacles are all the things that we feel when we first notice that anxiety is kind of exploded and this is becoming a problem. That's the racing thoughts, the worrying, the depersonalization, the headaches, the exhaustion, the adrenaline, the panic attacks, the stress. You can just go on and on. So what happens is we've had years and years of habits and patterns that have been building under the surface that we haven't really noticed, or we have, but we haven't really dealt with them. And then it explodes. And now we have to deal with them because it's all consuming and our entire life is now this thing. So what happens is we feel the obstacle course that first time, and it's very raw, it's very confusing, we're very lost. We don't really know what's happening. but all we know is it's terrifying and we don't like it. You get through the obstacle course, and then what happens is you come back around and you start the obstacle course again. And then you go back around, and again, you go through the obstacle course. And again, we're blindly going through the obstacle course, blindly going through, feeling all these things. But then what happens is we start to develop the fear of the fear. You may have heard of this. This is when we start to fear things before they even happen. So let's get into a little bit about what the fear of the fear is. One of my favorite and least favorite things in the world. It's one of my favorite things because once we kind of understand what that is and how it's happening, it's an eye-opener. But it's one of my least favorite things because I've been through it and it's exhausting. The fear of the fear is really what perpetuates the cycles, really what keeps the snowball charging down that hill and gathering up more snow. It's the fear of the fear that keeps it going. Now, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I can kind of describe to you how this works. You go through the obstacle course, maybe a few times, whatever it is, there's no real number, but you go through it, you go around to the beginning, you go through it, you go around to the beginning. Then what happens is humans have this amazing ability to project into the future or even go back into the past. And we use the prefrontal cortex to do that. So when you get back to the beginning of that obstacle course that you've been through a bunch of times now, and you really dislike all these obstacles that are coming, you start to project out. Oh my God, that phone thing's gonna come, it's gonna hit me. I don't know how to walk across that tightrope. I don't know how to do it. Every time I do it, I slip and fall. That hill is so hard to get up, and every time I slip on the slime, I can't do it. My hands burn from trying to pull on the rope. I get smacked by all the boxing gloves coming out and the boulders come. But you're still at the start of the obstacle course. But you've projected out to all those obstacles, and then you've gone back and remembered how much pain they caused you. And so somewhere in between there, in the present moment, you've now caused yourself all this anxiety by fearing the fear. So you've taken all those things, you've projected them, they come back and you remember all the pain they caused. And then that amygdala brain, which is the stupid brain, which just fires, danger response, danger response, danger response. Then what happens is we react to that by mainly running or averting, getting frustrated, getting angry. And then what that does is that reifies that response over and over. So again, we go through the obstacle course a bunch of times, then we get to it and we start to know all these things are coming. We start to project out. We remember that they caused this, and then it fires. We respond, and we respond by averting or running, which then reifies that and just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger, and the cycle goes on and on and on. So how do we deal with the fear of the fear in the midst of this obstacle course? Well, let's get into that. The fear of the fear is like the carrot dangling in front of you. It's like a dog chasing its tail. We're just blindly going in circles and we'll never be able to catch up to that tail. It just goes round and round. We keep going through the obstacle course, and we're going through the obstacle course blindly. We're just going through it, we're fighting it, we're resisting it, and we have no tools to do anything other than what we're doing. So we're doing the same thing over and over. We're probably expecting or hoping for different results. And if we're not expecting or hoping different results, then we're probably just mired in a depression that this is us and we're never going to get out of this obstacle course. So what we have to do when we're dealing with the fear of the fear and all these obstacles is, I guess it sounds like bad news, but it's actually good news, is we have to go through the obstacle course over and over and over. And we have to cover all the ground. We have to cover all the territory of the obstacle course. But we have to do this with a little more presence and a little more awareness, because you've been through this obstacle course. You've been through it countless times, probably for many months or many years. So you know all the things and all the obstacles that are coming. And you've been through it so many times and you're still here. It hasn't hurt you, you just don't like it. And you don't like it so much that it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And if we keep blindly going through the obstacle course, keep resisting the obstacles, keep fighting the obstacles, we're going to get the same result, and we're going to keep reifying that response. So what we need to do is learn to be a little more present So we recognize, oh wait, I've seen this obstacle before. This is what it does. This is what it feels like. And then we take a step back, and you can even say to yourself, you know what? Come on in. Go ahead. Go ahead, tightrope. I'm going to try and walk you today, but if I fall, I fall. Go ahead, foam pillar thing. I wish I had a better name. Go ahead. I'm going to try and duck, but if you hit me a little bit and knock me over, that's okay. But I know that obstacle. Oh, go ahead, giant boulder or giant boxing gloves. Go ahead and hit me. If you hit me, you hit me. Go ahead. It's okay. And then you get to the end of that obstacle course, you go back to the beginning, and you know it a little better. But this time, you went through it with a little acceptance of your situation, a little more knowledge this time, and now you're applying that and a little more compassion because you're a little more patient with allowing things to come. Now when you get back to the beginning again, you're a little more confident going through, even if it's just this much out of this much. That little bit will keep adding up. So we go through the obstacle course again. We gain a little more knowledge, a little more confidence. We open up to the obstacle course. Once we've covered all the ground of the obstacle course, there's not much else for the obstacle course to do. Now it's just how can we navigate it a little better with a little more awareness and a little more presence. I'm going to read a little passage from a book that I love, and I think this passage really relates to the obstacle course and how we tend to deal with it initially and how we should be dealing with it going forward. This book is called A Liberated Mind. It's by Stephen Hayes. He developed ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. It's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. He has another one called Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Life, I think. And you can even go on his website, see his videos, his workshops. Many of us live our entire lives struggling to get out of a puzzle room in our minds. We focus entirely too much on the past and how it can help us in the future rather than on enjoying the experience of the moment in its own right. This is natural for our problem-solving minds. If you watch your mind as it tries to solve almost any problem, you can detect this strategy. Look at the situation you're in, figure out what is wrong, look to the past, analyze it, try to understand how you got here, look to the future, analyze it, apply the understanding you have of the past and the present to the process of getting what you want from the future. Clearly, it's important to free ourselves from the traps of the past, but we've discovered that our efforts will be more effective if we learn to keep bringing our minds back to the present and our ability to choose in every moment how we will act. So how does that relate to the obstacle course? What we try to do is we're trying to figure out the obstacle course through logic, like it's a problem to solve. We're projecting out to the future, we're fearing all the obstacles, we're trying to see if we can somehow wiggle around them, we're going to the past, remembering how painful it is, and then we're feeling all this anxiety in the present. What a lot of people try to do is cheat the obstacle course. Try to go out the back, around the side, through the back door to the finish line, and they're like, oh yes, I made it. And then all of a sudden, they're right back at the starting point of the obstacle course. And then they try to cheat it again. And again, and that gets exhausting. And then they're back at the starting point. But now, when they have to go through the obstacle course, it's 10 times worse because they have no tools, they have no experience, they haven't covered any of the ground in the obstacle course. They keep running, they keep fighting, they keep averting, and now when they have to go through the obstacle course, they have no idea what is going on, and they're blindly going through these obstacles the same that they've always been going through these obstacles. So I think what we need to do is start to be more present, and we can choose to be more present. But that's not like just flipping on a light switch, right? It's more like a dimmer. It goes up, it goes down, we gotta learn how to play with that dimmer and get it just right. That's where I bring in the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars, if you don't know, are knowledge, compassion, acceptance, and diligence. So how do these 4 pillars apply to going through the obstacle course, being more present with the obstacle course, and learning from the obstacle course? Well, knowledge, we need to understand the obstacle course by reading books like this, by going through and experiencing the obstacle course, by learning from people who have gone through the obstacle course. And we learn so that it takes away a little of that fear. It gives us a little edge on knowing what is coming and knowing what it is. 2, we have to be compassionate and patient. When those obstacles come and we say, go ahead, you can hit me today. Go ahead, come on in. I know this is coming, here it comes. It's gonna hit me, I'm gonna duck, it might still hit me. That's being kind and that's being patient to yourself. It might sound counterintuitive because, well, I'm gonna let this hit me. How is that being kind? It's being kind because The other way is making that obstacle get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're sticking yourself and trapping yourself in that cycle. So the patience and compassion, because this is a tough obstacle course to get through, is what's going to help us get through it without creating frustration and anger. Then there's acceptance. We have to get in the acceptance gym, and we have to build the acceptance muscle. And the only way we can do that is by going through the obstacle course and allowing and opening yourself up to the obstacles, allowing them to come in, seeing them come in, and feeling them and seeing them in a different way. And then there's diligence. And we have to use diligence for all three of those and practice all three of those over and over. And the more diligent we are, the better it's going to be, because we're going to go through the obstacle course with those three pillars, and we're going to do it diligently each time. And each time we do it, we go through the obstacle course, we open up, we allow the obstacles to be the obstacles. And then when we get to the finish line, we have a little bit more confidence when we're sent back to that starting line, just a little bit. Even if it's this much out of this much, that's going to build up over time. So we get through the obstacle course with those four pillars, a little more presence, choosing to be more present. Even when we have thoughts of the future, thoughts of the past, we know those are in the present moment. And we bring ourselves here and we deal with the obstacle course with the four pillars. And once we get through it, that confidence is going to build. And it's going to build each time. And each time that confidence builds, we get more courage when we're facing the obstacle course right at the beginning, right at the starting line. And that's huge. The four pillars are there to provide you with confidence and courage so that when you drift into the obstacle course, you're ready to take on those obstacles, not fighting, not resisting, not running away from. Take on as in, I understand these. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to allow them to come in, because you've been through these obstacle courses 100 times, 1,000 times. So you know when they come in, they may not feel very good, but you're still here, right? It's not hurting you, you're still here. So each time you go through, you develop confidence and you develop courage, and then you take that into the obstacle course again with the four pillars. So I think this analogy is very important to get into your head, and to, when those symptoms come up, to picture this. Picture the obstacle course. Picture the foam thing with the pillars, picture the boulders, the boxing gloves, picture the slime hill, and those are the symptoms coming at you. But instead of blindly going through it and just blindly running into them and trying to fight them or getting frustrated or running away from them, try to be more present. Try to apply some knowledge by reading some books or hearing this video, and apply what I'm saying when you're there in that moment. And be kind and patient to yourself. And then do it again and be diligent. And do it again, be diligent. And that's how we change our relationship to the obstacle course. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. And if you did, give it a like, comment down below. Even if you have complaints, I'd love to hear them, because they might be good topics for other videos. So again, my name is Andrew Satius, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.